Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. I wonder how a guy from our first story was going to have a party with the backyard soaked. Well, our OP did what he asked him to do. So before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Have fun digging and fixing those busted water pipes I just destroyed. I work for a company that sets up tents for weddings, birthdays, or for whatever. Standard procedure is to ask about underground lines, and if they don't know, we can usually figure it out or can work around maybe it's about here, to some extent at least. This one guy, seemed nice, but something was a little off with him. He wanted a tent set up in his way too small backyard, but I decided we could make it work with some difficulty. He was planning to have a fish fry or something, and it sounded like he wanted to impress his guests, but seemed fake about it. His wife came out to ask a simple question, and his true colors shined as he screamed at her for no reason. I don't remember the verbiage, but it was uncalled for. I asked about water pipes, with him explaining there were a bunch of sprinkler lines, but he didn't care if we hit them, he'd just fix them if we did. We already spent way too much time there because of the space constraint, and I decided to just go for it. The first stake I drove hit a pipe, and the ground bulged as water started building up and then started leaking. "Keep going," he says. A few more stakes, and then the mother lode of all water pipes, the main line to the house. He said it was cool. He was over the top nice to us after that, but I knew he was a weirdo jerk. Water was absolutely everywhere, but I continued to work, finished up, thanked him, and left. Very nice about it, but I have no idea how his guest used the bathroom as the party started about 2 hours after we left. In all, about 3 sprinkler lines and the main line. I'm sure they were super impressed. "Hey Bob, why does your yard feel like a waterbed when I step on it?" And our next story. Entitled mother wants my car and part of grandpa's estate that she isn't entitled to. My mother is not a nice person. For almost 28 years, she used my father as a cash cow to support her. She pressured my father into having me and my brother and used us as an excuse to stop working for 20-plus years. She also treated me and my brother badly when my dad wasn't around. Once I started working, she demanded I give her over half of my monthly earnings for rent. At the time, it fluctuated, but was typically around $200 to $300 a month, except in the winter when it was under $200. My father, however, refused my offers to pay rent and repeatedly told my mother to back off, saying it was my money and I needed money to save up to move out, get a car, or whatever. She even got pissed when I saved enough money for a trip to Singapore and demanded I take her. Sometime in 2015, she'd gotten a job, finally, and her behavior got worse. My parents' relationship to help at home and didn't contribute her earnings to the household funds, saying that the money was hers and Dad could still support us as he was working. We were living practically month to month. Fast forward to fall 2016, the beginning of the story. I'd been put off work due to medical reasons. I ended up going back to school. One day, my mother informs me that my papi, paternal grandfather, had passed away a day or two prior and that she found out from my maternal grandmother, Nanny. We weren't close to my dad's side of the family because of their shady activities with elderly relatives, etc., so we expected that we would be written out of yet another will. Or so we all thought. A few weeks later, my mother tries to sneak around and walk out on us. I came home early and discover it. Her and Nanny demand and tell me that I can't, under any circumstances, tell my dad what's going on. Dad raised me and bro with honesty and integrity, so I told him after they left. My mother and Nanny are enraged because how dare I go against what they said and tell my father the truth, and that, in my mother's words, "You took that away from me. As usual, you're always selfish and disobedient." Yeah, like a 23-year-old that you mocked for years is going to lie for you and play along? So they separate. Dad can't afford to pay for a divorce, and my mother doesn't want to pay for it, but she still wants the divorce. Turns out she didn't want to support the family or Dad once he retired. Here's where Poppy's estate and my car come into play. In about February of 2017, the municipality calls us about needing permission to shut the water off at my Poppy's estate. Apparently there's an issue and one of the pipes burst or something. Dad and I are confused as we have nothing to do with the property. We were told the only note on the file was that my dad was to be called about the house as his name was on it somehow. We tell them they can shut off the water if they want, but we have no involvement in the house. But to call his sister Jill, we leave it at that. So in July, we pass by my poppy's house, same town, and I notice that while the storm door on his garage is closed, it looks like the inner door is wide open. Dad tells me I'm seeing things. Eventually, I insist enough that he decides to stop in, partially to humor me and partially because he thinks it's funny that no one's doing anything with the house. Turns out I was right. The garage, the house, and the car are all unlocked and unsecured. Dad gets a lawyer. Turns out my dad was the executor of the will and no one ever told him or notified him. And the one lawyer that was supposed to didn't send the will correctly, so it was returned and sat on his desk, buried under papers. For a year by the time my father's lawyer got a hold of him and we went searching for the will, he literally found it on his desk while Dad's lawyer was on the phone with him. She wasn't impressed. While we were opening the will and trying to sort everything out, Dad asked 2 questions. Since him and my mother were technically separated, could she still benefit from this? Since we lived several streets away from the estate, could he move the car to our yard and watch it after securing the estate? The lawyer said that because my father wasn't notified / found out after the separation, my mother wasn't entitled to the estate. We were told that not only could we move the car, but the lawyer encouraged that we do so for safety reasons. So later that day, my dad drove Poppy's car up to our yard and parked it under the fir trees in our yard right behind his car. You could look up the driveway and kind of see it behind Dad's car. Several days later, after removing knickknacks that were bolted on and power washing a horrible paint job off that covered some dents, etc., my mother suddenly showed up at our house. She stands on the porch and argues with my dad, demanding to know who owned the car and why it was there. She knew it was Poppy's, but wanted to cause crap. Dad tells her that it's now my car, a car she once said my Poppy should give me anyway because I needed a car. My mother goes ape crap. Apparently she wants $30,000 plus for both our house and Dad's car, plus half the worth of Poppy's house, and she wants my car. She says that Poppy's estate means that Dad can pay her. Dad reminds her that he can't and that the estate is still being looked into. Then this exchange happens. EM: You're still going to profit off of this. Dad: EM: No, I'm not. I don't even think I'll get anything for the house anyway. Look, we're living basically paycheck to paycheck as it is, and I have no retirement money. I can't even pay for the divorce. EM: Then get a loan. I'm not taking my name off the house or the car until you give me my $30,000. Dad: No bank will give me a loan this late in life and so close to retirement. EM: People do it all the time. You just have to do it somehow. Dad: I'm not continuing the conversation. EM: Yes, you are. I want my money. Dad: I can't afford it. Besides, didn't you already tell me you stay with your mother rent-free and don't pay any bills? EM sputters: I still want the car. Dad: You're not getting it. Get out. EM: Then I'll call a relative on Dad's side that also has screwed us over multiple times. OP doesn't even drive. She hates driving. Starts leaving as Dad walks back into the kitchen towards the phone. I'll get what I want one way or another. Dad: Get off the property before I call the cops. Soon after we sorted out what was going on with the estate, we were able to start with the car first. My dad didn't want the house or the car, so as executor of the will, he was able to pass the car directly from my Poppy's name / estate to me. The car's inspection was still good, and so was the car. It needed body work to fix the dents and drill holes and a new coat of paint, as well as a new battery, considering it's a 2007 Yaris with 100,000 miles on it. I still don't like driving, but it's being used regularly. Poppy's house was valued at $50,000, but due to its age, over 30 years, the water damage done, regulations surrounding homes that are without power for over 6 months, legal fees, and unpaid taxes during the time we didn't know about the estate, the house sold for far less than we had hoped. Dad split the money he got between me and my brother after we made sure Poppy didn't owe money to anyone. My mother has talked to me once after that, in which she said the moment my dad dies, me and my brother better be out of the house before she shows up. She doesn't care if we're packed up or have a place to stay or not. We better be out when she shows up. She demanded to know who owned the car, wanted me to give her the car, everything. She even accused me of lying. EM, your father switched the car to your name just so I couldn't have it. Me, what are you talking about? EM, he inherited the car. Me, technically he didn't. EM, that's how wills work. Me, you're talking to a paralegal, EM's name, and that's not always how they work. No, the car went from Poppy's name directly to mine. Dad's name isn't on any paperwork indicating ownership. EM, prove it. Me, I don't have to. I'm not a kid anymore. EM, just like your father. Do you drive it? Me, yeah. I don't drive it to school, but I do drive it. EM, then why do you have it if you don't drive it to school? You don't need it. Me, I do if I want to work. Besides, weren't you telling me that I should have spent my trip money on a car instead? And you always said that Poppy should give me his car anyway because paternal uncle's kids were always getting stuff anyway, so yeah. EM, fine. I'll go to the DMV and get the paperwork and see whose name it's in and prove that your father owned it before you got it, then you'll have to give it to me. Me, you know what? Go for it. It's not going to help you any and you won't get it anyway. EM, yes I will, you spoiled, entitled little brat. Me, F off. Don't come near me again. She never brought it up again in the time we were talking. We no longer talk to her, but she still wants a relationship after abusing us and walking out on us. JC, is that woman insane? Lady, that's not how life works. I'm grateful you were able to escape that toxic person. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.